The human who was spared, the galaxy was on fire. Great warships burned across the black sea of space, their steel hulls torn apart by endless weapons. The war between humanity and the alien empire had raged for years, and now the balance was broken. Humanity's fleets were shattered, their colonies turned to ash, their soldiers scattered and hunted across the stars. The galaxy believed the human race would vanish into silence, remembered only as a warning of what happened to those who resisted the empire. On one broken battlefield, a lone human soldier stumbled through smoke and ruin. His armor was cracked, his weapon lost, his blood marking the ground he walked. He had fought until his body could not move, and still he tried to rise. Around him lay the dead, both human and alien, the air heavy with dust and the stench of war. Above him, alien banners burned in the wind, a signal that victory belonged to them. The alien soldiers closed in. They were taller, stronger, bred for obedience to the empire. Their orders were clear. No human was to be left alive. The war was to end with the extinction of the species. Their rifles rose, aimed at the last survivor crawling on broken ground. His breath was heavy, his heart pounding. He knew he would die, and he had accepted it. But in that final moment, something unexpected happened. Among the alien ranks stood a small group of soldiers who hesitated. Their leader, scarred by years of battle, lowered his weapon. His eyes, cold from countless kills, rested on the broken human. For reasons even he could not name, he gave a command that defied every order. "Spare him." The others froze, their rifles trembling. To show mercy to a human was treason. It was death for them as well. Yet the leader's voice carried weight, and slowly their weapons lowered. The human blinked, unsure if it was a trick, unsure if death was only delayed. But instead of pulling the trigger, the aliens pulled him to his feet. They gave him water. They bound his wounds, and they carried him away from the fire of the battlefield. Whispers spread quickly. The Empire learned that a human soldier had been spared, and fury followed. To them, it was betrayal. The aliens who spared him were branded as traitors, warned that their kindness would destroy them. But still, they hid the human in secret places, keeping him alive when all others were hunted. They treated him not as prey, not as an enemy, but as one of their own. The human soldier could not understand why. He had fought them, killed them, cursed them. He was ready to die, yet here he was, alive because of their mercy. Each night he looked at the stars and remembered Earth, remembered the faces of his fallen comrades, remembered the burning ships that once carried his people. He felt the weight of survival, heavy and cruel. Why him? Why spare one human when millions had died? The aliens who saved him never gave an answer. They only said that even in war, there must be a choice that proves the Empire wrong. They told him that mercy was not weakness. Mercy was strength. Their voices were quiet, but their actions thundered louder than fleets. They risked everything for one human life, knowing it could mean their own destruction. Time passed. The war ended with silence. Humanity was believed extinct. The Empire declared victory and spread across the stars without fear, yet hidden away that one soldier lived. He healed, he learned their language, and he carried their secret kindness deep within his soul. Though he was only one man, his survival carried a seed of something greater, something the Empire could not predict. Every breath he took in hiding was borrowed time, yet every heartbeat carried a promise. If he ever returned to his people, if humanity ever rose again, this story would not be forgotten. The act of sparing one soldier would one day awaken the storm the galaxy thought it had silenced. The soldier's eyes burned with that silent vow. He looked at the aliens who had saved him, and though no words could capture the fire inside him, he knew one truth. Humanity remembered kindness. Humanity repaid debts. And when humanity returned, they would not come for one. They would come for all. The battlefield was quiet now, long abandoned, yet its shadow stretched far into the future. The Empire believed mercy had no place in war. They believed sparing one human meant nothing. But they were wrong. That single, act had already planted the root of their greatest mistake, because one life spared meant hope survived, and hope was the weapon they could never destroy. Humanity's return. For decades, the galaxy lived in silence. The Empire celebrated its victory, believing humanity was nothing more than a ghost. Human worlds were turned into ruins, their fleets broken and scattered. The name of Earth was whispered only as a warning: resist the Empire and vanish as the humans had. For the younger generations, humanity became a story, a myth to frighten children. No one thought they would ever return, but deep at the edge of the galaxy, far beyond the Empire's watch, something stirred. Long-forgotten signals reached out across space. Old frequencies, silent for years, now pulsed with power. Explorers spoke of shadows moving between stars, of fleets that should not exist. Traders vanished near unmarked systems. Rumors spread like fire, and unease grew. The galaxy sensed something was coming, though no one dared to believe it was real. Then, it happened. The first ship appeared in a border system. It was not a small craft, not a broken survivor of a forgotten war. It was a giant, a fortress of steel and fire, larger than anything the Empire had built. Its hull bore scars of old battles, but it moved with purpose and strength. When it emerged from the dark, alien patrol fleets tried to surround it. They demanded surrender, demanded answers. The ship gave none. With a single volley, it tore their fleet apart. The survivors carried the message back. Humanity had returned. Panic spread. Worlds that once cheered the Empire's victory now trembled. The old fear returned, sharper than ever. What had humanity been doing in silence? How had they built such ships in the dark? No one could understand it, but everyone knew the truth. The war that had ended was not finished. It was only sleeping. From system to system, human warships appeared, black against the stars, their engines glowing like suns. They did not announce themselves with diplomacy. They did not open negotiations. They came with one demand, spoken through every broadcast, every channel, every voice of command. Where are the ones who spared our brother? The galaxy froze. The Empire's rulers whispered in secret halls, afraid to speak openly. They knew the story, though they had buried it in lies. One human soldier had been spared. A handful of aliens had defied the Empire's orders. That act, small and hidden, had now brought back the storm. Humanity's fleets were not searching for vengeance. They were not hunting worlds for conquest. They were searching for mercy, for the ones who had shown it when the galaxy had shown none. Alien leaders argued. Some demanded to hand over the traitors at once to end humanity's wrath before it spread further. Others claimed it was impossible, that those who spared the human were long dead, forgotten in the ashes of war. But deep down, all of them feared the same truth. Humanity never forgot. If they had come back, they would not stop until they found what they sought. The spared soldier's story had reached Earth, carried across secret lines, told to those who had survived. It became more than memory. It became a promise. While humanity rebuilt in silence, while their fleets grew stronger, the story burned inside them. They would not rise again for revenge alone. They would rise to repay the debt of mercy. And now that time had come. The galaxy looked upon the human warships and saw more than steel. They saw loyalty made into fire. They saw wrath held in chains, released only for a single cause. Humanity's return was not wild destruction. It was controlled, sharp, aimed at one truth. No act of mercy would go unanswered. Alien citizens whispered in fear. If humanity could return from extinction for one spared life, what would they do? For their own kind? What kind of people valued loyalty more than survival itself? And what would happen to the galaxy when that loyalty burned across every star? The Empire tried to fight. Fleets were thrown against the humans. Planets turned into battlegrounds. But the war was different now. Humanity fought with precision, with patience, with weapons the Empire had never seen. They broke fleets apart not to conquer, but to demand. Where are they? Where are the ones who spared us? And with every battle, with every system that fell silent under human guns, the question grew louder. The galaxy realized the truth. This was not the vengeance of a broken people. This was the return of a force that remembered kindness deeper than hate. At the edge of space, on worlds once forgotten, whispers spread of survivors, aliens who had lived in hiding, carrying the shame of sparing one enemy life. Some believed them dead, others believed them hunted. But humanity was closing in, and the Empire could no longer keep its secrets buried. The storm had awakened, and it was not for conquest, not for empire, not even for revenge. It was for one thing. The promise made when a dying soldier was lifted from the ground instead of left to rot. Humanity had come back, and they would not stop until that promise was fulfilled. The search for the saviors, the return of humanity, shook the galaxy like thunder. No world was safe, no ruler slept in peace. Across star maps that stretched from rim to core, human fleets carved their path. They did not conquer worlds to rule them. They did not burn cities for pleasure. Every system they entered echoed with the same message, spoken in calm but unbreakable words. We seek those who spared one of us. Show them to us, and we will leave you in peace. It was a message that terrified more than war itself. Empires were built on fear, on the belief that mercy was weakness. To hear a species demand not vengeance but the location of saviors unsettled everything. Some alien leaders believed humanity was lying, that their words were only a mask to hide deeper rage, but wherever humans found no answer, they left destruction behind. Not full extermination, but targeted strikes that crippled fleets, silenced leaders, and left a warning burned into the stars. Whispers spread of humanity's methods. They moved with precision, almost surgical in their strikes. They spared civilians. They ignored surrendering soldiers, but they crushed the rulers who tried to hide the truth. They shattered chains, they opened prison camps, and everywhere they went, the galaxy realized that humanity's fury was not blind. It was aimed at those who lied, those who tried to bury mercy under fear. The Empire grew desperate. They sent spies, they sent assassins, they tried to twist the story. They claimed the act of sparing a human had never happened, that it was only myth. But deep down, they remembered. The record had been buried, but not erased. One soldier had been lifted from death, and now an entire species demanded to repay that single act. On backwater worlds and forgotten colonies, stories surfaced. An old soldier swore he had seen it. A miner whispered that he once hit a stranger who did not belong. Fragments of truth drifted through space, and humanity gathered them all, piece by piece, like shards of a broken map. The trail led across dangerous sectors, through warlords and syndicates, through ancient ruins where fleets had once burned. The search became a legend of its own, humanity tearing open the galaxy not to rule it, but to find a handful of souls, lost in time. Among alien citizens, fear began to shift into awe. They watched human warships pass, black against the stars, their hulls marked with scars of silence. These ships carried no banners of empire, no symbols of conquest. They carried only the memory of one spared life. And the question spread like fire in the hearts of the people. If humans valued one life so much, what would they do for an entire world that stood with them? The Empire could not allow such a thought to grow. They declared the saviors criminals, traitors, enemies of the galaxy. They promised death to anyone who helped the humans find them. Worlds trembled, but the tide was turning. For the first time in centuries, people began to question the Empire's rule. If mercy had once existed in the galaxy, and if humanity returned only to honor it, then perhaps the Empire's power was nothing but fear built on sand. The search reached a breaking point in a distant sector where stars burned faint and cold. Human fleets intercepted a convoy, and within its databanks they found what they sought: fragments of records, marked as forbidden. Coordinates of an old colony where whispers said the saviors had once lived. The Empire had hidden it, erased it from maps, buried it under false names. But the truth had a way of surviving. Humanity now had a trail. When the news spread, panic tore through the Empire's core. They knew if humans reached that world, their lives would crumble. They sent fleets to block the path, deploying their strongest weapons, desperate to hold back the storm. But humanity's fleets pressed on, breaking through walls of fire. For them, the search was not just duty, it was destiny. Every step brought them closer. Every battle burned brighter with the vow that had carried them through silence. No act of mercy would be forgotten. The spared soldier's story had become more than memory. It was now a beacon that guided entire armadas. As human ships lit the skies of the cold sector, the Empire understood the scale of their mistake. By sparing one life, the aliens had planted a seed that grew into humanity's unbreakable resolve. And now, the galaxy trembled as that seed grew into a storm too great to stop. The search was not over, but the path was clear. Humanity had found their first true lead, and nothing in the galaxy could keep them from reaching its end. For the first time, the saviors were not just whispers. They were within reach. And the Empire knew that if humanity found them, the balance of power in the galaxy would change forever. The rescue, the trail led to a forgotten world. It circled a dying star, its skies heavy with ash, its lands broken by centuries of neglect. To the Empire, it was nothing more than a shadow planet, erased from maps, hidden under false names. But for humanity, it was the place where hope still lived. This was where the ones who had spared a single human had vanished into silence. When human fleets reached the system, they found it under siege. Imperial ships hovered above the planet like vultures, their guns pointed down, their orders clear: wipe out every last inhabitant. The Empire had hidden the world for decades, and now, with humanity closing in, they sought to finish what they started. If the saviors were destroyed, the secret would die with them. But the storm had already arrived. From the black of space, human dreadnoughts emerged. Their massive hulls blotted out the stars, their engines burning like suns. The Empire's fleet moved to intercept, believing numbers would break the invaders. But humanity had not come unprepared. Their ships opened fire in silence, unleashing torrents of energy that tore through enemy lines. Explosions lit the void, each one a warning that mercy had returned with fire at its side. On the ground, the saviors lived in fear. They were not warriors. They were farmers, workers, and families who had once chosen kindness when the galaxy demanded cruelty. For years, they had been branded as traitors, hunted by their own rulers, forced into hiding. They had kept the memory of that one human alive, whispering it as a story of hope, though they never believed they would see him or his kind again. Then the skies shook. Human ships broke through the blockade, burning a path through the Empire's defenses. Drop pods streaked like falling stars, slamming into the ground. From the fire rose armored soldiers of Earth, their banners glowing against the night. They marched not as conquerors, but as guardians. Their weapons were raised not against the innocent, but against those who sought to erase mercy. The saviors could not believe their eyes. The very species they had once pitied now stood as giants in their defense. Human soldiers formed shields around them, their voices firm and unyielding. You spared one of us. Now we spare all of you. The battle raged across the planet. Imperial. Troops poured into villages, their machines crushing walls, their weapons spitting fire. But humanity met them head-on. In the fields, in the streets, in the skies, humans fought with relentless fury. Each step forward was carved in steel, each blow struck with purpose. To the Empire, it was madness, to risk so much for a handful of lives. But to humanity, it was justice. One of the alien elders, their face marked with age and scars, watched as human soldiers drove the Empire back. Tears filled their eyes as they whispered, "We saved one life, and now they save us all." The spared, human soldier, now older, stood among the armored warriors. His eyes carried the same fire from the battlefield where he had once been left for dead. He looked upon the people who had lifted him from the ground long ago. His voice was steady, his vow fulfilled. "I told you mercy would not be forgotten." Above, the final clash thundered. The Empire's flagship loomed, its guns aiming down upon the planet. One shot would erase everything below. But the humans had seen this weapon before. Their dreadnought rose to meet it, its cannons blazing. The void lit up as two giants exchanged fire, and in the end, the Empire's flagship broke apart, consumed in flames. The sky cleared, and silence followed. When the dust settled, humanity stood victorious. The saviors, once outcasts and fugitives, now walked free under the protection of the very species they had once saved. For the first time in years, they felt hope not only for survival, but for a future. Humanity had returned not to destroy, but to protect. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy a truth the Empire had tried to bury. Kindness was not weakness. Kindness was strength. The soldiers of Earth made their vow to the saviors before the watching stars. You gave life to one of us, for that we give life to all of you. From this day none shall harm you while humanity stands. The galaxy watched in shock. Billions of eyes across countless worlds saw what unfolded on the ash planet. They saw humans fight not for empire, not for territory, but for loyalty. They saw a species who valued one act of mercy more than power itself. And in that moment, fear turned to wonder. For the first time, the galaxy began to believe that perhaps humanity was not only a force of wrath, but a force of protection. The Empire had failed. Their cruelty had brought silence, but mercy had awakened thunder. And now the thunder did not fade, it spread. The galaxy learns the lesson. The Ash world was saved, but the echoes of that battle did not stay hidden. Across the galaxy, signals spread faster than fire. Every starport, every trading station, every hidden relay repeated the same story. Humanity had returned, not to conquer, but to protect. They had crossed the stars, fought impossible battles, and defeated the Empire's strongest fleets for a single reason: to repay an act of mercy given long ago. The galaxy had never seen such a thing. Empires waged wars for territory, armadas, fought for power, for resources, for glory, but never for loyalty, never for kindness. The idea that a species would fight so fiercely, risk extinction once more, simply because someone had spared one life, it shook the very roots of galactic law. For the first time, people began to question the foundation of the Empire itself. Hidden places, oppressed races whispered new words. If humans valued loyalty above fear, then perhaps loyalty was stronger than fear itself. If humans remembered mercy after decades of silence, then perhaps mercy was not weakness. Perhaps mercy was the seed of strength the galaxy had forgotten. The Empire tried to silence these whispers. Their rulers called humanity dangerous, reckless, a species poisoned by emotion. They spread fear, warning that humans would soon turn on all others. But the words rang hollow. Entire systems had seen the truth with their own eyes. Human soldiers had marched into fire, not to conquer them, but to shield them. Human warships had broken fleets not for territory, but for the lives of strangers who had once shown mercy. The saviors, now free and under humanity's protection, spoke openly. They told their story to the stars, how they had spared a broken soldier when the Empire demanded his death, how they had been hunted ever since, called traitors forced into shadows, and now how that one soldier had returned with an entire species at his back. Their words spread like lightning. People wept at their courage. People trembled at humanity's answer. The Empire's lie was broken, and within the halls of power, rulers began to understand a terrible truth. The greatest weapon in the galaxy was not their fleets. It was not their armies. It was loyalty. And humanity had mastered it. The spared soldier, his hair now silver with age, stood before the saviors in the light of a new dawn. Around him, human banners rose over the Ash world, not as symbols of conquest, but as shields of protection. His voice carried across the gathering. You gave me life when all was lost. You risked everything for a stranger. Humanity will never forget. From this day, your people are ours, and we are yours. No enemy will touch you while we draw breath. The vow was not shouted in rage. It was spoken with calm, unbreakable certainty. And in that moment, the galaxy saw what humanity truly was. They were not conquerors. They were not prey. They were a storm held in chains, unleashed only for a promise. They were wrath when betrayed, but loyalty when honored. They were the kind of force no empire could control because no empire understood them. The empire's fleets retreated. Worlds once bound in fear began to resist. For every planet that rose against its chains, humanity stood beside them, not as rulers, not as masters, but as allies. The galaxy learned that to betray humanity was to call fire upon your world, but to stand with them, even in the smallest way, was to gain a protector no force could break. In the end, the story of one spared soldier became more than history. It became legend. Songs were written. Children across alien worlds grew up hearing the tale. Spare one human, and humanity will spare you all. It was not just a story of war. It was a story of loyalty, a story of how kindness can outlive empires and how mercy can reshape the galaxy. The empire, once untouchable, crumbled under the weight of its own cruelty. And in its place, new alliances formed. Alliances built not on fear but on trust. At the heart of it all stood humanity, scarred from their long silence, yet unbroken, their vow eternal. In the silence of the stars, one truth remained unshaken. Mercy had saved a single human. Humanity had answered by saving every last one of them, and the galaxy would never forget.